Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us again at Kitson Migration Advisory. For those who are first time with us, please like our page to keep yourself updated to the reasons and all the changes happen in Australia and Australian migration. Today, our focus is on the difference between all the three common subclass of skill migration, which is Visa Subclass 189, Visa Subclass 190, and Visa Subclass 491. Because a lot of people do not understand what is the main difference between all these three subclass of visa, as all these three is also under the general skill migration. Along with us today, who will present the difference between all these three visa, we have our Kitson Migration founders and Managing Director, Dato Michael Yong. Dato Michael Yong is a licensed migration agent, and he has been doing it for more than 10 years. Personally, Dato Michael has also a successful businessman for more than 30 years experience. Along with him, we have a sweet, beautiful ladies here. She have a very vast experience in assisting the clients for the skill assessment. She just came back to Malaysia and joined Kitson Migration. Before that, she worked in Melbourne together with an experienced migration agent in Melbourne, specializing in skill assessment. So without further ado, I'll pass the floor to Dato and Kay. Dato, please.
Hi, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming in on a Saturday afternoon to join our live forum. I really appreciate that you spend time clicking into our website and coming to our Facebook. So as what we have told you that we are trying to be more frequent right now on the active on the Facebook, and we will share with you different topic every week. So every Saturday we will find a particular topic, and then we will inform you a few days ahead, and then we will put it on Facebook and to register your interest to attend. And today I will talk about the general skill migration visa, and I will, as what Jimmy has shared, I will talk about the differences between the three subclass of the visa. So let me put on the PowerPoint. I will have an introduction about who we are, those who are new with us, a quick introduction about Kitson. Then I'll go into a more technical detail where I'll open up the website of the Department of Home Affairs, and I will run through the different type of subclass visa, what are the common criteria, and what are the individual criteria.
Dato, yes, thank you.
You got it back? Okay, good.
Yes.
Good. Yeah. Okay, so who we are? We are Kitson Migration Advisory, and just a little bit background about myself. Jimmy has already shared with you that I'm a licensed migration agent. I also have a license for New Zealand Immigration Advisory, but today I will just focus on Australia. So Kitson has been in the business for more than 10 years. So our head office, humble beginning back in Brisbane, that was more than 20 years ago. And that it expanded into Kuala Lumpur. So when I came aboard way back in the year of 2009, we started to grow the Malaysia business from Kuala Lumpur office to Penang, and then we went to Kota Kinabalu. We expanded to Brunei, and lately we went into Center Point in Bandar Utama, PJ. So 2 years back, because of the demand of our migrants moving to South Australia, we actually set up an Adelaide office in South Australia. So we have transferred 2 of our Malaysian colleagues to be permanently based in Adelaide. So who we are? Obviously, we are all registered migration agent. We have 6 of us in our team, where myself, you can call me Michael, and my colleague Moon Kong, we are both Malaysian. So Moon is based in the Adelaide office. I handle the Malaysia office, and my other colleague, Helen, Philip, and Hamish, they are all in the Brisbane office. So each of us will have a specialization on certain type of visa. So in my portfolio and Moon portfolio, we are specialized in the business and skill migration. So why Kitson? So we are best of both worlds. We have team based in Australia. We have team based in Malaysia. So if you are Malaysian using our services, we have our sales staff and also supporting staff to support you during the visa application. So as I shared, our team are all registered migration agent that is handling individually your file. And then we have back-end support staff who are there to support you in terms of documentation. So some of my colleagues are lawyer per profession, and a few of my colleagues are chartered accountants. So we have 6 registered migration agents. And in terms of Malaysia operation, today is the 12 years of our operation. So for our number of clients, we have in services worldwide already exceeded more than 14,000 customers. And in Malaysia operation, as I shared, we started way back in 2009. What service do we provide? Initially, if you're coming in for consultation for the general skill migration, we will give you a free consultation. So those days, before the COVID-19, we will have a face-to-face meeting. And in this current pandemic situation and the post-COVID, a lot of clients are going for option of Zoom meeting. And some of you prefer to drop by our office. We will have to schedule an appointment early to make sure that there's a social distance and everybody's on a mask before we can provide the consultation. So the first consultation is free of charge. We will basically map up, when we meet up with you, we will map up the pathway. We will explain to you all the option pathway that you have, and then we will summarize into a faster and the cheapest pathway. Why are there so many pathways? Similarly with today's topic, why are there 3 subclasses of visa for the general skill migration for overseas applicant, subclass 189, 190, and 491. So when we meet up with you, we explain to you all the subclass, and then we'll tell you which is the fastest and the cheapest pathway. Then when you engage us, we'll be here with you for the next 12 to 18 months, depending on the visa time frame for the processing. So in that 12 months, my team will be in contact with you in terms of getting documents from you, and then the sales staff will handle your file, will be the window for you to communicate. So once the visa has been lodged and when the visa is granted to you, we always tell our client, stay in contact with us, right? Even though we have completed our job, but we are always happy to help you on the post-grant. So post-grant is something that me, myself, being a migrant, I have moved there, and my children, my family have moved there, and have experienced a lot of question mark when I there way back 15 years ago. So because of this, when I took over the Kitson Migration Malaysia operation, I actually put a lot of effort on the post-grant. So one particular one that interests everybody is obviously our children education. You want to know about schools, you want to know about enrollment, speak to us. We have staff who are based in Australia who can help you. And you want to register your Medicare card. Those of you who are going for business visa, you want to establish a business or you want to buy an existing business, we are here to help you by linking you up to the broker and obviously to the lawyer and to the accountant for those who are on the tax. And for housing, over the years we have been doing this business, we basically have quite a long list of developers themselves that is willing to reach out to individual buyer or even for you to rent. Okay, now come to the main topic, general skill migration. In my few sessions, I did talk about the requirement for a general skill migration. Today, I will go into a more micro part where I will talk about the differences of subclass 189, 190, and 491. My colleague Kay will come in. She will help me to translate a few of the slides in Chinese, but most of the slides that I'm going to present will be in English. Over to you, Kay.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Kay from Kitson Migration Advisory. 今天呢，我会以中文的方式来陈述189、190、491的区别。澳洲技术移民的签证类别呢有3大种，其中3大种就是189、190、491。那么今天我们就要解释它们当中的区别都有哪些。
The subclass 189, 190, and 491 are part of the Australia Skill Migration Program, and they are for overseas skill applicants to seek permanent residence in Australia.
签证189、190、491呢，都是同属于澳洲技术移民这类型的签证呢，都是适合用于一些海外的技术人申请的。
The application process for the visa subclass listed above has similarity, right? So let me share with you what are the common similarity for these 3 subclasses. The first step for you to start the application for the skill migration is to get a positive skill assessment. So skill assessment, in my earlier slide, I did mention that you have to be assessed by a body in Australia So if you're an engineer, so Engineer Australia will assess you. So how do the skill assessment work? That's where our expertise is. Our staff will be able to assist you, to guide you, to provide sufficient document for decision ready. So once we have completed the skill assessment and you have meet the minimum point test, we can lodge in an expression of interest. So we call it EOI. So EOI is a pool system. Everyone goes into the pool and you have to meet the minimum points of 65. And obviously, if you are going for Subclass 189, which is an independent visa, you will have to have higher score in order to compete with the others in the pool system. Then the computer with Department of Home Affairs will have a pickup from the pool. So they will pick the highest point for those who are going for a Subclass 189. And if you are under sponsorship by a state under Subclass 190 or 491, if you are sponsored by a state, the minimum points is 65. You will receive an invitation. So if you are sponsored by a state, you will not be in the pool system. It's the state government that will sponsor you, will nominate you from there, and you will receive an invitation to apply. So once you receive an invitation to apply, we basically have 60 days to lodge in your visa. So when we put in your visa, we will make sure that the decision-ready documents are there. And once we lodge in, beside your criteria on the point test and also the skill assessment, the final part, you need to meet the character and the healthcare requirement. So this character and healthcare is for all your family members. So if you're a husband and wife and 3 children, so all 5 of you will have to meet the requirement of the healthcare. And for the character, it's a police check. So for Malaysia, we'll basically assist you to get a certificate of good conduct from Wisma Putra. Over to you, Kay.
签证189、190和491呢，他们的那个签证的申请呢，都是非常的相似的。他们的共同点都有，首先呢，我们必须要提交职业评估，每一个职业的那个职业评估都是不同的。比如说 engineering， 它的职业评估是 under EA， 然后还有就是会计，它的职业评估是 under CPA， 就是每一种的类型都不一样的。所以如果你们有一些疑惑，你们可以找我们。我们可以帮你呈现不同的，让你知道你是适合走哪一类型的职业评估。然后第二呢，就是 EOI， 你必须要呈交你的意向书，告诉当局你有兴趣想要申请什么类型的签证，然后他就会把你的签证呢，就会放进一个池子里面是一个pool，然后就根据那个pool，你的分数越高呢，你的那个获得那个邀请的概率就会越大。最低的标准是65分，当你达到最低标准的时候呢，其实你就有资格申请了。然后当你在申请的时候呢，你必须要获得邀请。当你获得当局的邀请之后呢，你才可以提交你的申请表格。在你提交申请表格给移民局的时候呢，你必须要符合证明还有健康要求。
All right, thank you very much, Kay. Let me move to the website. I'll just temporarily pause this page. I'll move on to the website to show you the individual visa subclass. All right, I will go into more on the micro detail of it.
While we are waiting for Dato to load the necessary pages, if you have any question about the skill migration and also assessment for the skill migration, we will open up the floor for Q&A at the end of the session. So Dato, I'll pass the floor back to you.
Thank you, Jimmy. Okay, the first subclass I will share with you is Subclass 189. So this is a point test stream, right? As I shared on the earlier slide, there's a minimum points of 65. And because it's an independent visa, you need to score as high as possible. So the more points you get, the better chance of you being selected from the pool system. So overall for this visa, once you obtain this visa will allow you to work, study, and live anywhere in Australia, right? And once you are permanent resident in Australia, you have the ability for you to sponsor relative, right? To certain eligible relative for a permanent resident. And after living in Australia as a permanent resident, you have an option to become an Australian citizen. So this visa is a permanent visa. The cost for the main applicant is 4,045 Australian dollar. This is to pay to the Australian government. Current processing time for this visa, based on the Department of Home Affairs website, it takes around 13 to 14 months. And for you to go for this visa, you must have an occupation that is in the list, and your occupation must be assessed as positive. Besides that, you must be also invited, and you must have satisfied the point test. So what is the eligibility requirement for the Subclass 189? You have to be invited to apply. You must have a suitable skill assessment. Your age, all right? Age points are given to age. So your age, the cutoff age is that you must be under 45. Be able to score 65 points and more or more. So if you have more points, a better chance. There's a minimum competency English that you must meet the requirement. And if you have a higher English score, you get more points. And then you must also meet the skill requirement. So once we have lodged in the visa, as I shared in an earlier slide, you have to meet the requirement of the health of the whole, yourself and the whole family, and also to meet the requirement of your character. So that's a Subclass 189. Now let me share with you another visa, Subclass 190. Now do remember, Subclass 189 is a permanent resident visa. Subclass 190, also similar. It is also a permanent resident visa, right? So what's the difference 190 and 189? Now, Subclass 190, you have to be nominated, or we call it sponsored. You have to be sponsored for this visa. So again, similarly with this Subclass 190, you have work and study right in Australia. You can live anywhere in Australia, right? And obviously, if you are sponsored by a state, you will have to live and work in the state. And then the requirement for this visa is very similar with the Subclass 189. The only extra is that you have to be nominated. So the first thing is that you must be invited to apply. And Subclass 190 visa, you must be nominated, which means you have to be, we have to put in an application to get a state sponsorship for you. So the 6 states and 2 territories, what the state offer is that they basically have a list of occupation that they are considering to sponsor overseas migrants. So we will be able to assess this list, and then we will run through the list with you and to match your occupation. So if your occupation match the list in that particular state, you meet their minimum threshold. Some will have minimum English requirement, some will have a minimum work experience requirement. So after meeting the requirement, then we will lodge in the state nomination for you. Once you receive a state nomination, you will also receive an invitation to apply, right? So let me recap. Once you obtain a state nomination, you will receive an invitation to apply. And before you move to the state of nomination, obviously your skill must be assessed. And there is a requirement for age, minimum point of 65, English requirement. You must have a skill requirement, meet the healthcare and the character. So that is the snapshot of Subclass 190. Now, let me move on to another visa of Subclass 491. Now, 491 is a little bit different. It is called a Skilled Work Regional Provisional Visa. So it's a provisional visa, and some people ask me, is it a temporary resident? You can consider it as a temporary, but why is classified provisional? Because there is a pathway for you to move to a permanent visa after you meet the minimum requirement when you're in Australia. So this visa, when they grant you, is valid for 5 years, right? So what are your rights when you have this visa? You can stay in Australia for up to 5 years. You have to live, work, and study in a designated regional area. So regional area, since November 2019, the Australian government has increased the regional area postcode. So some of the good news is that Perth is considered as a regional area, and there are more cities that are also considered in the regional area. So if you are not familiar, your question on the regional area postcode, not to worry, speak to our staff. We will be able to tell you which are the area that's considered regional. So what are the requirements for this visa? They have also very similar common criteria. The eligibility is you must be invited, right? Now this visa is a bit unique. You can be nominated by a state or sponsored by an eligible relative, right? So if you have your relative staying in certain area that is within the regional postcode, your occupation fall into the occupation list, you can be sponsored by a relative, right? And you can also be nominated by a state. So again, the age, you must be under 45. You must have a suitable skill assessment, a minimum score of 65 points or more, a minimum level of English, meet the skill requirement, meet the health requirement, and the character requirement. Okay, a lot of you may be thinking, okay, if I'm going for a subclass 491, Michael, you say it's a 5 years temporary. What is my pathway for permanent? Now, pathway for permanent for this visa is, once you are in a subclass 491, you move to Australia and then you work and you live there. All right. So your pathway for the visa that you move to permanent visa will be subclass 191. This is a very new visa. It will only commence on 16th of November 2020. Why? Because the 491 only started on November 2019. Right. So once you're on a subclass 491, which is a provisional visa, right? You stay in Australia for at least 3 years, right? And live and work in Australia for at least 3 years. There is a minimum taxable income you must achieve, right? Then once you met that, you can apply for a subclass 191, which will lead you to a permanent resident. So with that, I basically finish off the presentation on the website. Let me move on to my PowerPoint again. Kay, can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, over to you, Kay.
OK， 非常感谢刚刚我们的 founder 解释了这3种签证的不同之处，还有他们的相同之处。那么现在我就要解释这3种签证，他们到底有哪些不同呢？OK， 我们现在看一下它的那个 slide， 就是到底有哪些不同。Michael, next slide, please. OK， 首先呢，我们可以看到这个 table 呢，它很清楚的列出189、190跟491之间的不同之处。OK， 像刚刚 Michael 说的，189跟190呢，他们都是属于永久签证，就是 PR， 我们所说的绿卡，就是 PR。OK， 那么我先解释189哦。189的签证呢，它是一种永久签证，然后在成交 EOI 方面呢是强制性的，就是说每一位申请人，当你要申请189的时候呢，你必须要提交你的 EOI 给当局。然后呢，这类型的签证呢，你是不需要获得州政府的担保的，你只需要交了 EOI， 然后获得了邀请，你就可以直接提交你的移民表格，这个是非常的方便。但是同时，它的要求是相比它要求是比较偏高的，因为竞争多嘛，竞争多，它的要求就肯定是比较高。然后呢，这类型的签证呢，它是不需要去偏远地区工作或居住的。当你拿到这类型的签证之后呢，你想要住在哪一个州都是可以的。然后这类型的签证呢，它的申请邀请呢是年龄45岁以下，然后你的英语水平呢必须要是 competence level， 就是熟练水平。然后这类型的签证呢，既然是没有州政府的担保嘛，对吧？所以呢，在分数那方面呢，州政府也不会给你任何分数，所以在州政府担保分数里面呢，它是0的。所以呢，在65分里面，你全要靠你自己的分数来累积。那么我们来说190的签证呢，它跟189最大的分别就在于190是有州政府担保，而189是没有的。那么190呢，它也是属于永久签证。EOI 申请那方面也是强制性的，然后在州政府担保那方面呢，它是需要的，就是说，比如说你想要住在维州，然后刚好维州也有开放你的工作、你的那个职业申请，那么你是可以申请维州，让维州来担保你。然后这个维州担保呢，你是不需要住在偏远地区的。如果今天维州担保你，你是可以选择住在墨尔本。所以在偏远地区那方面，你是占了优势，就是说你不需要住在偏远地区，比如说 Geelong 那些你不需要，你可以选择住在墨尔本市中心。然后在申请条规那方面呢，年龄也是一样，45分，然后英语水平是熟练的水平。然后这类型的签证呢，它有一个好处就是州政府会给你5分，因为你选择了住在这个你选择了住在这个州，所以这个州会给你一个5分的额外一个 points， 我们说一个 points， 一个5 points。那 么491呢，它是一个比较特别的一个签证。这个491其实它是非常的新，它是在去年11月的时候才 launch 的。然后这类型的签证呢，它是属于临时的签证。这类型的签证它的有效期是5年。然后它在成交 EOI 那方面呢，它也是强制性的。不管你在今天你成交189、190或491，你都必须要交 EOI。那么这个491呢，你可以一个很特别之处，今天你可以要求州政府来担保你，同时你也可以要求你的亲人来担保你，但是你的亲人前提是必须要住在偏远地区，你不可以让你的亲人谁住在墨尔本的来担保你，那么这不符合资格的，亲人必须要住在偏远地区的。那么呢，当你获得这个491的时候呢，你必须要住在偏远地区长达3年，你才可以转绿卡。你必须要居住还有工作在偏远地区，而不是说你居住在偏远地区，但是你选择工作在城市，那是不符合资格的。然后在年龄那方面呢，你也是一样，是45分，然后英语也是熟练水平。491呢，它是非常好，就在于呢，州政府会给你15分，15分是非常多的，因为你的那个最低标准是65分，但是今天州政府就给了你15分，所以你本身只需要累积另外一个50分，你就可以移民了。所以491其实现在是非常非常吃香的。那么491今天它是邻居签证，它是一个 temporary visa， 它也是可以转绿卡的，你只需要符合一些条规就可以了。它的其中2个条规是，首先在5年里面你必须住满3年，然后第2个条规就是你必须要符合最低的工资标准，1年里面的最低工资标准。换句话说就是你在那边你要打工，你在那边你要工作，你或者你老婆必须要工作。那么你们就符合第1个工资标准，还有第1个就是5年里面你要住满3年，那么你就可以转绿卡。绿卡的签证叫做191。那么今天这3种签证最大的分别就在于189、190绿卡，直接绿卡，而491它是一个短暂的，就是签证，但是它会帮助你转绿卡，3年之后它会帮助你转绿卡。好，今天我们的presentation 这边，好 ，Michael， your part。
Oh, thank you very much, Kay. I hope that explanation on the 3 different types of visa will let you have more understanding. I'm sure there's a lot of questions. Feel free to put it into our comment on our Facebook. I will try to answer as much as possible, or you find that you want immediate reach out, I will put our contact number there. Contact any one of us. We'll be able to catch up with you and to go into the consultation and to run through the requirement for you. So before I end, let me tell you that the migration law changes very regularly. So every 1st of July, there is going to be a major change. So today we are in the month of June. So on the coming weeks, we are expecting some announcement. So one of the announcements that we always look forward is the scale occupation list. So usually they will announce somewhere before July, and we have the list of occupation, and they will also announce the quota. So I always tell my client, if you are eligible for the visa, all right, apply first. Once you are given a permanent resident, you are valid for 5 years. In that 5 years, you can plan to migrate on the 1st year, or the 2nd year, or the 3rd year, or wait until the 5th year. So which means it's not necessary you got the visa, you have to move to Australia. So we understand that the fear of clients moving to Australia in the new world. That's why we have our colleagues stationed in Adelaide and in Brisbane office. So when you're there, if you happen to be staying in South Australia in Adelaide, all right, our colleague here will be supporting you. I myself am also staying in Adelaide. So I always tell my client, all right, once you get a PR, it's easier for you to maintain, then you apply a new one. So if today you are eligible and you say, oh, let me wait for next year, you get harder and harder, all right? So through my experience for more than 10 years in doing migration work, the scale migration is getting harder and harder. It started from a different point system, it went to a different point system, you know, and the point system go higher, the English requirement are getting higher to get points for you to meet the English points. And then they have more conditions like minimum work experience. And then the age limit used to be under 50, then they change it to 45. So with that, I thank you very much for your time. I will just show the last slide where our contacts are. Right, so these are my team of sales and marketing staff. Feel free to reach out us in our mobile anytime and also through our Facebook. So I hand the floor back to Jimmy.
Thank you, Dato. Thank you, Kay. I hope the explanation earlier by Dato and Kay will clarify all your queries on what is the 3 subclass visa is all about. Now we are open up the floor for the question. We have a few questions from the floor, but before we proceed to the Q&A, due to the limited time, we may only able to take some of the question. If we were to miss out your question, not to worry, our team will contact you personally to clear all your queries. Okay, the first question here is from Miss Ann. Dato, she asked, I presume she is holding a provisional visa because her question is, do we have to fulfill 5 years in order to apply for PR? Can it be that apply the PR much earlier? So my understanding from the question is she is holding a provisional visa now. So do she have to fulfill the full 5 years before she can apply the visa where you're in your presentation is called Visa Subclass 191, if I'm not mistaken, Miss Ann?
Yeah, assume that she's a holder of the subclass 491, right? 491 is a 5 years provisional visa. So there is a minimum of 3 years and work and live in the regional area. So on the 4th year, you have fulfilled the 3 years work and live and meet the minimum threshold of the income, you can apply for your permanent visa. That's why the subclass 191 will only start in the year of 2022. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dato. Ms. K, because in your presentation earlier, you did mention that all of the skill visa will require an assessment. Okay, Mr. Raj here, he is an engineer and he is also registered with the Engineering Board of Malaysia. So does it also qualify as a qualified engineer in the point of Australia?
He graduated with engineering course in Malaysia?
Yeah, he graduated in Malaysia as an engineer and he is also registered with the Engineer Board of Malaysia. So does he still have to do the assessment?
Yes, definitely. He still need to do the assessment under EA. But whether he needs to do the CDR, then this one we have to do the assessment first. Then only we know that whether he need to do the CDR before the assessment or not. But of course, he still need to do the assessment under EA in Australia.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. K. The next one here is in the earlier presentation, this is by Mr. Lee, the state nomination program for visa. Okay, he said, Mr. Lee was asking, if I were to sponsor by, for example, Victoria, can I stay in Perth?
Okay, you're talking about subclass 190 or 491?
Can you explain on both, Dato? Because
yeah, okay.
Mr. Lee doesn't specifically say which visa was it.
Yeah, basically when you are nominated by a state, there is a obligation that you will sign with the state that you're going to work and live in the state. So my advice to the client is that once you are nominated by, say you are by Victoria, right, it is obvious to ensure you meet your obligation when you're in that particular situation during your visa. So similarly, if you are a 491 visa, so when you convert into a permanent visa, subclass 191, there is a requirement where you have to disclose where you are staying, you have to provide your employment proof and also your resident proof.
Okay, so that means whichever state sponsor, I have to be in the respective state, Dato. Am I right?
Yeah, there is a commitment obligation you sign with the state when they nominate you.
For certain period, but not for the whole life, for certain period only.
Yeah. Obviously, once you convert to a 191, you are permanent resident, you can live anywhere. Yeah.
Okay, I think this is from Mr. Raj again, because in your earlier explanation, Ms. K, you mentioned a term called CDR. So Mr. Raj would like to, can you briefly tell him what is this CDR as for an engineer terminology?
CDR is the project, that what did he done previously so that he need to tell the EA, the authority, that what he done previously. Obviously, he need to provide at least 2 to 3 CDR reports to the EA.
Okay, I think to assist Mr. Raj, not to worry, we will get our colleague to contact you to further explain to you in detail what is this CDR and the engineering requirement. Okay. Okay, there is someone asking, Dato, in your presentation, you said you have an office in Brunei. He was asking, can he know where is the office in Brunei? This is by Mr. Palash. I presume he is from Brunei.
Okay, let me just take up the address and I'll just share it with you all. Right?
Okay, thank you, Dato.
Go on with the next question. Yeah.
Okay, Miss K, this is from a teacher. She said she had been working as a teacher for many years. How do he going to justify to the Australian government that he is a qualified teacher? Do they have a specific requirement for a teacher to be qualified?
Yes, he need to pass the skill assessment also. If he don't mind, maybe he forward us the CV and also the qualification that what he studied before, so that we can conduct an assessment for him or her before we consult her.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. K. Okay, the next question. In your presentation, Dato, you did mention about from visa 491 to be converted to visa 191. Apart from the resident requirement, there is also a taxable income bracket that they must achieve. Okay, so what is the taxable income bracket is, and what if they do not achieve the taxable income? What if their job doesn't meet the taxable bracket income? Can they work multiple occupation?
Yeah, what happened is that there's a minimum threshold with the Department of Home Affairs announced it way back in 2019, right? However, when they publish it on the website on the subclass 191, they did not specify the minimum amount. So anyway, it's good that Jimmy, you take note of this inquiry. I will dig out the minimum threshold which was announced in 2019. We can send it to the client.
Okay, thank you very much, Dato. So we will also contact you, Encik Ali, about the taxable income bracket. Not to worry, our colleague will then contact you. Due to the limited time today that we have, we would have to end today Q&A session.
Jimmy, sorry, before that, the question on the Brunei office, let me just share the screen. Who's the gentleman? You just let him.
Mr. Palash.
Mr. Palash, right?
Yes.
So Mr. Palash, the office in Brunei, this is the contact there, as you can see there. Jimmy, you can see the screen, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Catalyst Kitson Migration.
Yeah. Okay, over to you, Jimmy.
Okay, thank you very much. Due to the limited time that we have today, we will have to put the other Q&A on hold. Not to worry, our team will contact you personally for clear all your queries. Please bear with us and like our page, as every week we will have these sessions, and we will not only share on skill migration, we will also be sharing on parent visa, children visa, family migration. For instance, next week, our topic will be focusing on how studying Australia will lead you to an PR. Joining us next week will be University Tasmania, UNITAS, and also an education consultant from Australia. So thank you again for joining us today. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Bye. See you again.
Bye-bye.